Hello, and welcome to the Mommy Escape Time podcast. I'm Lauren. I'm a wife and a new mom. I came up with the idea of this podcast after struggling to find mommy groups around me when my son was born. I wanted a community of mothers I heard so many of my friends talk about when they had their children. This podcast is to help mothers like me that want a community of mothers to connect with when they have their free time. Together with my usual guest, Taryn, and other mothers, we will share our experiences, not our advice, through motherhood, and hopefully get some tips from you, the listeners. So come join us on the Mommy Escape Time podcast. Hello, and welcome to the Mommy Escape Time podcast. I am here again with Taryn. Hello.
Hi.
I know. It's so nice to have you back.
I know.
It's so weird because we used to see each other every day, multiple times a day, and then we went like a month without seeing each other.
At all.
Yeah.
Right?
So this is different. But we are here to talk today about what it's like to get a pet as a family with kids. So Taryn, I used to have a dog, and I had a dog for 10 years, and unfortunately he passed away right before we found out I was pregnant. So I did not get to experience it. But I can say that my son absolutely loves all animals, wants to be with every animal in the world. But I don't have the experience of having to take care of the animal and the kids and the family. Yeah. But you do.
Yes. Recent.
Yes.
So my kids turned 10 this year.
I know.
And for their birthday, we got them a dog. We rescued a puppy.
And I'm sorry, I didn't even say this, but Taryn has a twin boy and girl that are 10, and I have a 15-month-old. So sorry.
Yeah.
Keep going.
That's okay. So my husband and I, when we first got married, we're like, we're never going to have pets. No way. No pets for us. Not going to happen. He and I both grew up with pets. We were not interested. And then I had kids and was like, man, I really benefited from having a dog in my life growing up. Now, I didn't need it the whole time, but I remember, like vividly remember my middle school and high school years where I would be in my room crying because of some middle school drama that probably means nothing at this point, but my dog being there to just lay with me and that unconditional love that it provided. And no matter what kind of day I had at school, he was always happy to see me when I came home. And I was like, I can't deprive my kids of that.
Yeah.
How do I convince my husband that we're going to have a pet? I don't care, cat, dog, whatever. We need to have a pet. Obviously, I'd prefer a dog.
Right.
Just based on my upbringing. And so I dropped it. I just didn't really think about it. We had newborn twins. There was no way I was even having it like as an option.
Triplets, why not?
Yeah, of course. And one that will never understand English.
All right.
So my kids started asking for a brother or sister or a dog by the time they were like 3. And I was like, oh, well, we're not really interested in either. So when they were 4, finally, I was like, okay, guys, for your 10th birthday, that'll give me 6 years to work on your father. And maybe you'll forget, and that'll be great. And so for their 9th birthday, they woke up and they were like, I'm so excited for next year. And I was like, you haven't even opened your gifts from this year or like had your birthday yet. And they were like, nope, but next year we're getting a dog. And I was like, you literally haven't mentioned it since that day. Literally never heard it come from your mouths, but you remembered. And a year before you turned 10, you're all in. So then I had a year to work on my husband because I just put it off, assuming they had forgotten.
Right.
And he still was not fully on board, but was of the same mindset. I don't want to deprive my kids of this experience. So we went to an adoption event and we adopted a puppy, and she was super cute, and is super cute. Oh my God, it is so much work. When we first adopted her, it was the end of the school year.
Right.
So I would go home during a free period to let her out because she wasn't housebroken yet, and learned quickly that she had crate anxiety from being adopted and rescued. Like, I don't know what happened in the rescue process. Also turns out she hates my husband. I'll come home and she'll like come and wag her tail and get on the ground and want me to pet her stomach. He comes home and she growls and barks. She won't.
And how old is she?
She's now 7 months old.
Okay.
When we adopted her, they said 4 months. We adopted her at the beginning of June.
Okay.
And we took her to the vet, and the vet was like, she's got almost all of her adult teeth. She's probably closer to 6 months. And I was like, okay, so it is just like having a newborn in the house.
Yeah.
So, but she became housebroken very fast. So I'm lucky that we only had a short window of accidents in the house, and there was less than 10 total. And
That's
she
really good.
hasn't had an accident in the house since. But it was waking up every time she whimpered, taking her out of the crate, getting her to calm down in the crate before the kids would go to sleep so that they weren't awake with her barking. And she still won't. She's better in the crate now. But if I leave the room, even if it's 2:00 in the morning, she'll start barking. And my husband, who she doesn't like, can't calm her down.
No.
So she's fully my responsibility, which I accept because my husband was still kind of on the fence about it. But it went back to waking up repeated times in the middle of the night, calming them down, putting them back to sleep. And then waking up, she still wakes up at 5 a.m. every morning, 5 a.m., which is fine because when I go back to work, I'm going to be getting up at like 3:45.
Right.
So not that big of a deal. But I'd like to get her to sleep until 6 so that she can sleep until I get back from the gym.
Right.
And I can let her out when I'm heading to work. But that aside, she has brought so much joy into our lives. The funny things she does. The kids adore her. Within the first week, my son leaned over to her and whispered into her ear, "You are the most loved dog ever." And my heart melted and I teared up. And he was like, "What's going on, Mom?" I was like, "Nothing. It's just so sweet." But they at 10 years old will take her out when she needs to go to the bathroom, or will take her for walks. They ask if they can feed her. And it's been more than a month. So I thought it was going to be like a good week and they were going to be like, "No, we just want to play with her." But they're keeping up with it. They've taken ownership of her. They understand that she's their birthday present. So while I do a lot of the nighttime stuff, when my kids are home, all they want to do is spend time with her, and she's very tolerant. Right. My son will like give her a hug and pick her up, and I'm like, "Can you just put her down?" And she'll just let him. She'll just let him. Like, all right, here we go again.
Right. And did you research certain breeds or certain types of dogs that you were looking for beforehand, like a family-friendly dog?
Yeah, so I had researched a few breeds that were family-friendly, but knowing that we were adopting, I was looking more at the descriptions on the website through the adoption company that we went with. And it had to say family friendly, and I wasn't looking for a dog that was super high energy. So if it was like loves to play all the time, I was like, we're not going to adopt that one. Originally, I was like, if we could adopt an older dog, like that's 1 or 2 years old, that would be good because it's past the puppy phase and we don't have to do the housebreaking. Right. Like a lot of their ways are set, and then we could just do some of the advanced training that we need to get done. So we did research. We found these 2 dogs that we were like, oh, either one would be great for our family. They'd be perfect. The event was starting at 3 in a town about a half an hour away. And we got there at, I think, 3:30 because I worked and had to like get my kids from school. And the 2 dogs we wanted were gone. And I was like, and my kids were devastated and I felt so bad. And there was like 2 or 3 dogs left. And there was one dog that was at the eye level of my daughter that was sleeping in her crate. And my daughter was like, well, what about this one? And so I asked and I said, what do you know about this dog? And they said, well, she just came from Tennessee yesterday. So all we have is the write-up from Tennessee. And it says she's very sweet and is good with kids. And that's all we really have. And for me, it was enough. If she's good with kids, that's fine.
Right.
I just didn't want a dog that was going to be nipping or
Right.
biting or like jumping up all of the time. And she was asleep, and I was like, great, look, she's so tired. All these other dogs are jumping around, and she's snoozing over here. We got a winner.
If only you had known.
Oh my God, 2020 hindsight. So
your whole Instagram feed is always your dog just running around.
she's nuts. She's crazy. So they told us when we adopted her, she was an Australian Shepherd Labrador Retriever mix. And I was like, that's perfect. I know someone who has Australian Shepherds that are therapy dogs. So they've got to be pretty good tempered and like good with people. And I grew up with Labrador Retrievers, and they're great with people and families and kids. So this is awesome. Well, by the time I brought her home, everyone was like, so it looks like she's got some beagle in her. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? And then someone was like, I see some terrier. And I was like, I don't even know what a terrier is, except my friends have a rat terrier, and it's a nightmare. So I do not want a terrier. So I was like, oh, it must be beagle. It must be hound of some sort. Like, there's definitely, I don't see Australian Shepherd at all anymore once I looked it up more and like looked at the other breeds people were talking about. And my stepmother, who I adore, was like, I just got you the DNA test, and we are going to find out what she is. Well, she's almost 50% terrier. A little bit of Labrador Retriever, and then the other parent was so mixed that she's like a hound, companion, sport, hunting dog mix. And I was like, well, that explains all the energy, because terriers have lots of energy and run and run and run. And the only reason why she was sleeping was because she had probably just been neutered the day or two before they put her on a truck and shipped her to Connecticut. So I learned my lesson, but I adore her, and she is so sweet and so fun. And now we just need to really teach her the drop command, because everything is her chew toy right now.
Oh, yeah. That's tough.
Yeah.
Is she taking any classes?
We did take classes. We went through PetSmart, and they offer puppy classes, beginner classes, intermediate, all the way through like therapy dog intro training classes. Now, I learned quickly. We don't have a therapy dog on our hands. She's good with kids, but she's smart, so she's stubborn. And the only way she responds to commands is if we have a treat. So if anyone has suggestions as to how to train a dog without a treat to drop it and leave it, that would be great. Because I'm at a loss, to the point where we're going to look into having a trainer come to our house so we could show them exactly what she's doing. Because it's hard to explain when she's in a class with other dogs. She's very dog submissive. So other dogs are there, and she cowers, and she's happy. She's wagging her tail.
But she's not the alpha.
Right. So at home, I think maybe she's still trying to figure out who the alpha is, and she really wants to be the alpha, and it's not going to work. But like one of my drapes was ripped because she used it as a chew toy. Yeah. Throw pillows have been decimated. Yeah. Like, you name it. The towels torn in half. I was like, oh my God, this dog is going to be pooping out some pretty colorful stuff.
Definitely.
Yeah. So having a dog with kids is great because my kids are old enough to help.
Right.
It's just like being a stay-at-home mom of a toddler that can't speak yet. And it's equally as unpredictable. Now, dogs obviously sleep more, but not that much more. And for our dog, her name is Luna. For Luna, she sleeps when she wants to, not when I'm tired.
Right.
And so I don't know what my day is going to be like. And I had this conversation with my husband yesterday. I was like, listen, I know that over the summer I usually pick up slack on folding laundry. I physically can't fold laundry with the dog next to me because she will take it all and run around the house with it and think it's a game.
Right.
So I need a little more support while she gets trained and grows out of this puppy energy.
Right.
So that the housework gets done, because usually I pick up housework over the summer, and I just haven't been able to.
Yeah.
So
it's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Just like, and I imagine if you have a pet before you have children, you're just introducing the child, and that maybe dog or cat, or I don't even know what other animal you would have. I mean, I can imagine, but
Right.
I don't know how it would affect you as much. But I feel like dogs and cats need a lot of attention.
Right.
And if you already have that, like if you already had the dog there, then you already have the routine. You know what to expect.
Right.
It's not like you're training the dog and the child
Right. Right.
at the same time. So you have that like established relationship. So bringing in a dog, I'll say dog because I don't know if cats need as much training,
Right.
you know. But I just think, yeah, like you're just bringing in another child into the mix.
Yeah.
Because I always say, like, I want my child to have a dog, but I don't want him to have it right now.
Right.
So, especially like,
Good choice.
like at this age, a dog is going to herd my child. So it's just going to be a dog knocking over a child.
Which we experienced at my house a little.
Yeah, because my son got to meet your dog, and it was funny because I don't want to say your dog was afraid of my child, but a little bit.
Yeah. She takes a little while to warm up to people.
Right, and obviously my child's screaming, and he's so excited, and when I take my son for a walk every day, and he will point out which houses have dogs. He knows every house that has a dog, and he wants that dog to come out and play with him. And we have neighbors that have a dog that's the exact same age as my son, and they're walking, and they're like holding him back on the leash. They're like, "Oh, well, he's still a puppy." I'm like, "It's fine. You can let my son.
Yeah.
It's okay. Don't worry."
Right.
And
I take full responsibility for my
right.
son falling over.
Yeah, I'm like, trust me. I'm like, I know what to do. And it's like a golden retriever, so it's a very friendly dog. So the dog came up to my son, and he just started looking at my son, and my son just screeches. He's so excited, and he's laughing and everything like that. And the parents of the dog were like so shocked. They're like, "Oh my gosh, he like loves the dog." I was like, "Yeah." I'm like, "I'm telling you, he loves dogs." There's a family that we also walk by that has a cat, and it's a super friendly cat. Like this is like a very special cat. I take him out of the stroller, and he will pet the cat, and the cat will come up to him. The cat could be anywhere in the neighborhood and will come up to my son. It's not just my son. He'll come up to anyone. Cat will come up to anyone, but
I'm gonna look for him on my way home today.
Yes, and so sometimes even on the way back, the cat will follow us, and the cat will follow us. Like after I put my son back in the stroller and I start walking away, I walk backwards with my son because the cat follows us for about a quarter of a mile.
Oh my gosh!
And then like just stops and knows that it can't go any further because it's near a busy road. So, but yeah, I mean, my son just loves pets in general. So again, like I wouldn't want to deprive him of that. And I've been through the hardest part of having a pet, which is saying goodbye. And it's the worst, and it's atrocious, and you never want to have to do it. And when you do it, you're like, I'm never doing this again. And then
you do.
Yeah.
And I also think it's good from my experience, my great grandparents lived until I was in college and I was a young adult. So I didn't really experience loss except with my pets.
Right.
So I'm grateful that I went through all of that terrible, crappy, emotional stuff with losing my dogs growing up, because it really exposed me to some negative emotions I wouldn't have been exposed to until I was in college, really.
Right.
And who knows how I'd have dealt with grief for the first time as a college student with the loss of a loved one.
Right.
So it's another situation where like I feel like I'm doing my kids a service by giving them the experience of this unconditional love, and unfortunately giving them the experience of the loss.
Right. But it's like you just can't match that. The love. I mean, like when you said, like you have no idea what it's like to come home and someone's excited to see you no matter what.
Right. No matter what.
Right. And when you're sad, your dog knows it, and they try. It's so, it's like the best thing ever. And I just think about it, like if my son loves pets this much and he's seeing them for 1 minute.
Yeah.
Like, what is he going to do when they're there all the time?
He's going to be like my son and hug it and pick it up and walk it around like a baby.
Right. And I think that's why, like, some kids are just meant to have pets because they don't, it's like you said, after a month, they're not sick of it. You know, they're not like, oh, no, I'm not going to help.
Right.
Like, I I know it's hard to understand it, but when it's raining or when it's super cold and snowing and kids don't want to take the dog outside, I think we can all relate. Like, no one's like, gee, it's raining. I can't wait to take the dog outside.
I want to. Why don't you?
Right. Yeah. Especially after work and all this other stuff. Yeah. Like, you know.
I also don't want to feed my kids 3 times a day, but I do it.
Right.
That was a joke.
So I think it's just that mentality that, you know, it's okay for your kids to not want to do it 100% of the time, but no one's going to want to do it 100%.
No, I don't want to do it 100% of the time. That's usually when I pass it off to my kids.
Right.
Like, hey guys, your turn.
But I think at that point, it's like I had the dog all by myself, and then I met my husband. So like eventually he started to help with the dog. And so it was like so weird. I was like, oh, someone else is like helping. It was
what's going on?
It's like, oh yeah.
Did the dog warm up to your husband right away? Because you had a lab also,
I had a
right?
lab. Yeah. So he did. Yeah. But my dog liked everyone. So he didn't not. If he didn't like someone, then I would be very concerned.
Stay away from that guy.
Yeah, exactly. So because my dog could have been a therapy dog. I just. At the time, I didn't know it was a thing.
Right. Yeah.
So, because that just sort of became more popular. And by the time I did know what it was, he didn't qualify because of some age-related thing. Because labs have I adopted him when he was 3.
Right.
So he's actually a little older. So then when he was 8, there's like an age requirement for when they, at the time there was, I guess there isn't now, but.
Interesting.
Because labs have like hip problems and things like that, mm-hmm. So they won't always do certain things, the training. So
gotcha.
But yeah, we always looked into it, and I always said my next dog has to be able to be a therapy dog. So we have at our school, we actually have one of the teachers has a therapy mm-hmm. dog, and she brings him to school, and it's like amazing, and the kids love it.
The teachers love it.
The teachers love it. Let me tell you, a faculty meeting with a therapy dog is a much better faculty meeting.
Much more tolerable.
So, yeah. And she actually tries to bring it specifically for faculty meeting days. So
that's genius.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's nice. So, if you guys have any suggestions about pets or what to do with pets or what you did with pets, especially those who have multiple pets and multiple kids.
God bless you. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
It's the same thing when you see like someone with like 4 kids and you're like, oh, I have 4 dogs, 3 cats, a bird, a snake. And I'm
what,
like,
are you crazy?
I was like, when do you have time to feed yourself?
Right? Because the dogs don't just leave you alone either.
No, and they know time. They know what time it is to eat. So, yeah, that's a big deal, too. So, yeah. Okay, well, thank you, Taryn, for telling us all about it.
You're welcome.
And you can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, the internet, at Mommy Escape Time. And we'd love to hear what you think about pets. Bye.
Bye.